Hi guys, welcome back to the show. Today we're back on the FT101 and we're going to do some teardown and inspections and have a good look at it. Give the radio a good look over. We're going to take all the modules out. We're going to take the case off, look inside of it, see if we see anything that stands out. Check a few components that's normally gives problems in these 101s. Now this is the E version. If you want to follow along, you know just exactly what's going on. And this is probably going to be a long drawn out series, and I'm going to keep the video short because I want to go over a lot of stuff in these FT101s. So sit back and we'll get to it. So guys, one of the things you want to do when you're working on these old radios is get the service manual. And this particular service manual off the Fox Tango website covers just about all the models. It gives you a list of the different boards that's used inside. Now, as you can see, mine is old and has been worn because it has been used. I even got tabs in it to mark certain things, you know, like the theory, flow chart. It's kind of like a block, you know, it's like a block diagram. Fault finding, receiving, transmitter. And again, what I was talking about a moment ago is the different boards that came in these things, and it gives you a list of from the original 101 right on up to the E, EE, and EX, and it gives you all the board part numbers. Now every board in these things are not the same throughout the models. They did change some things in them to help improve. So if you're restoring an old FT101, use this chart to look at the numbers on your boards and see if the board that's in there matches the series of the 101. You wouldn't have one of EE running a board that came in a early model, you know, like a B, because there was some changes in them, and it can cause a little problems throughout. Another thing, there is lots and lots and lots of information on the internet, and this is stuff that I've collected over time. I've also got thumb drives with a lot of FT101 stuff on it, and this right here is showing different locations and stuff for the alignment process and stuff that you don't normally find in the service manual. Again, like I said in my last video, I am planning on putting an archive together and archive a lot of that stuff. And this is just accessory units that goes with the 101. But, you know, get all that stuff you can find, document it, and put it in a folder. Myself, I like having paper stuff instead of looking at files on a computer, because you can take your paper stuff, you can mark in it and make notes, and that helps a lot. So you guys know just about as much as I do on this radio. When I went in this radio in that last video, we got the receiver up and going. That was the first time I've even looked in it. So, you know, we're going to go from there. We know we got the receiver working. So it's always a good idea to get your little tub, a box. So when you take stuff out, you can put it in that box as you're going through and keep up with everything. So we'll go ahead and remove the top cover and set that aside. And we'll turn the radio up. We can go ahead and take the power cord off because we will not need that. And again, my game plan is to go completely through this radio, get it back stock just like it needs to be. Now, one thing I've already done, I went through and checked all the crystals that's in this radio, and it's fully crystallized, and it's crystallized with the correct crystals in it. There's been no swapping. It has all the original crystals. There's been no modifications. So one of the first things I did notice on this radio is that it's missing quite a bit of the screws that go in it. We're going to go ahead and remove this plate because there's going to be some inspections that's got to go on under there. We can see a little brass strap is intact. Helps prevent RF. That'll go in the box. And we'll go ahead and remove the 4 screws here from around the case. These are not the original screws. Yep, that's when you can tell it's not the original screws. Okay, we got a Phillips screws here on the side that are painted, and I need to find some of these and get them painted because I am missing a lot of screws throughout all these radios I have on the Yaesu 101. See, there's one missing here on the top. Now, it's a little cool out today, so I do have the heater running, so you probably hear that in the background. Alright, now we should be able to get this case off. And there it goes. Okay, as I said before, you can see that our crystal board is fully populated. Hasn't been any hocus pocus going on in here. Has all the original crystals that came in it. We also see this unit has the speech processor board. Down here is our high frequency board, or RF board. Contains the first mixer for the receiver and second mixer for the transmitter. So the first thing we're going to do is pull out this board, and you just reach in there and just simply grab it and pull it straight out so we can get a good look on that. We have a 10 volt, looks like 47 microfarad capacitor on here that will need to be replaced. So I'm going to go ahead and get a piece of paper and make a note and write this down, so that when I go ahead and get the capacitors ordered up, and you can go online and you can find capacitor kits for these radios, and they're like $37 or so, where the capacitors is already picked and placed in a bag. But I want to put high grade capacitors in here, and plus I want to order more than just one. So I think in my case it would be cheaper to go ahead and just order from a good reputable capacitor company, so I can recap this thing. And that's 16 volt, not 10 volt. I had to put it on the magnifying glass to look better. Yeah, old eyes ain't what they used to be. But anyway, looking at the board, this is the transistor that has been so much questions about it, about either using the original transistor or its NTE equivalent. Okay, but I think one of the replacements is a NTE 454. You can get this. Fox Tango sells what they call the FET replacement, but they do have a replacement for it. You can also find the originals on eBay. However, keep in mind when you're ordering that FET, you do so at your own risk, because you can't really be sure if it's an original transistor or a fake. These things are highly sought after. You can find a bunch of them on eBay, so just be careful. Looking over the board, you know, I don't see any problems with it. The board looks good. The solder joints look good on it. I will put it under the microscope and take a look at it later. We'll lightly clean. Do not sand these. These are silver plated. Just clean them. Use, you know, if you use Scotch-Brite, use it real lightly, and just, you know, usually what I do is just put deoxit on it. Now, one thing to note is that this board, this is the PB11-81B. You can use this board in any of the Yaesu transceivers, the FT101s, right on down to the plain with no designator on the front. What you can't do is take one of those out of a older unit and put in the newer units. So just keep that in mind. Alright, the next board over here that we're going to pull out is PB1184. That is the modulator and oscillator board. And we should be able to take these two screws out. These are bolted down. I figure I'll just let y'all ride along with me as I take this apart. I got to do it anyway, you know, to get a good look at anything. And it's no frills and thrills on doing this, but it's what I have to go through whenever I'm working on one of these rigs. So I'll let y'all go along through it also. Now you can see all 3 oscillator crystals here. We got one electrolytic on this board, and I'll have to probably look at the schematic. I can't quite see it. You know, in the $10 101 we had split or cracked mylar capacitors, and this one is cracked here on the top. So if you look real good, you can see that little crack across there. And this is common in the 101 radios. It's nothing to get worried about. You will see it. And we'll just simply have to end up replacing that 1 mylar capacitor along with this electrolytic. And, you know, plus go through and check resistor values. Now, I don't know what it is, these type of resistors that they used in here. They're not Allen Bradley style. They're not actual roundies from the old stuff, but I haven't seen no problem with these resistors drifting too far out of specification. But still, you know, it's a good idea to check these, which means you'll have to unsolder one end of them to check them. We'll have to clean all these capacitors that's on here. So, you know, it's one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to go in, troubleshoot, fix everything, align it, and then go swapping out parts. Because, you know, this is the reason. All these will need to be sprayed with some deoxit and cleaned to get any debris out of them. We can see some corrosion here on the back of the board. So it looks like a little bit of moisture problem, but this is no problems. You know, a lot of people will throw this in the ultrasonic cleaner and clean it. I do not like to throw these boards in an ultrasonic cleaner because some silicone and germanium parts can be damaged from that ultrasonic. So think about that when you go and start cleaning this stuff. Just some good spray, and you know, you can wash this off in water, then spray it with some alcohol and heat it and dry it. So that's no problem. Alright, so now we need to go ahead and remove this modulator board. And you know, you got 2 screws holding it in. This bracket is bolted to a shield, and then the low frequency board is bolted to it also. So we should be able to get in here and remove these 2 screws. And if you notice, I put the other 2 screws back in the bracket to keep from losing them and getting them mixed up with other hardwire. Alright, so now if we grab the board, we should be able to rock it right out. You can tell that one's been in there for a while. Lots of electrolytics on here. That will need to be replaced. And I'm seeing quite a bit of split capacitors here also, the Mylars. That one's split completely in 2, and about every one of them on here is cracked. When I'm inspecting these, I'm looking for any component that's been overheated, burnt, broken. I'm not seeing anything. I don't see no corrosion on the back of this one. Like I said, all these boards will have to go under the microscope and recheck all these solder connections. You know, these parts on top are adjusted a lot, and sometimes these solder connections where these parts are soldered down will crack. Okay, we'll come on over here and we'll take out PB1183. This is our low frequency board. This also has our CW filter and single sideband filter. We'll remove these 2 screws. And sometimes this one can be a little tricky getting out because you don't have much room to rock it. So we'll just simply put a screwdriver in between the chassis and the bottom of the board, and we'll rock it out that way. And there it is. Now you can see this one has the CW filter installed and the single sideband filter installed. Again, this board has 1 capacitor on it, unlike the modulator board that's full of them. It would have been really satisfying to open this up and see that someone had installed a AM filter in this, but wasn't the case. I can tell that looking at the soldering here, someone has been into this board and had this CW filter removed at one time. So you just don't know. Now I've seen some guys, I picked up a couple of radios that had the AM filter in it. However, the radios was not modified to run an AM filter. You just can't change the filter. You actually have to go in and do some work to the mode switch to make the AM filter work. Okay. Alright, next one we're going to pull out is the noise blanker unit. That's one screw holding it in. And we'll find out which board is in this. This is the PB1582. Yes, that's what it should be. PB1582. And it looks good. I'll go ahead and put this screw back in here. So the next board we'll pull out is going to be PB1180. And this is your high frequency board. That hold this in. I said 2, I meant 3. Now we'll come in here and just rock this out. One screw came with it. Now as you can see, this PB1180, as you can see, the PB1180 is encased in a shield. Because say this is the high frequency and IF board. We'll have to open this up and take a look in it and see if we see anything that looks out of place. Okay, I got the top off, and this top just clips on. You kind of have to pry it off a little bit. You can see there's one electrolytic in there, a couple of trimmer caps over here, a couple more over here, 3 on that side, 1 crystal. And I do not see anything out of the ordinary. Now this is made with 2 circuit boards. You got one on the top, then you got this edge connector board here on the bottom. But I don't see anything out of place, and it looks pretty good. And the last board to remove is PB I think it's 1314. Anyway, it's the regulator board and marker generator board. So we'll pop these 2 screws out. And we'll better bring this unit out. And you can see we got quite a bit of electrolytics again. All these need to be replaced. These are old. And I'll go ahead and be honest with you guys. Just going through and replacing all the electrolytics and cleaning all these connectors, not only the edge connectors, the chassis connectors also, 9 times out of 10, 90% of the problems with these radios are solved just by doing that. Now these do produce a little bit of heat, so look at them, make sure there's nothing been heating. My wall capacitor there. I see no burnt marks or anything on the board. So just a good recap and cleaning, and she'll be good to go. Alright guys, let's take a peek in the PA compartment. See if there's any horrors waiting for us there. It's been in there earlier. that in the box. Other than dirty, it looks pretty good. Okay, other than being dirty, it looks pretty good in there. One thing I like to look for is this RF choke having any burnt spots on it. I do not see. There's a molded mica capacitor here. I always change these out because they are the old molded micas, and they do have high voltage on it. On this big square one here, very seldom go out. Capacitor here is real thin. You very seldom have any problems with those. But other than just what looks like a bunch of, I don't know if it's spider webs or dog hair, it looks pretty good. The suppressors on top are not burnt or cracked looking. So let's see what we got for tubes in this thing. We're going to gently just pull this back. Stick this up. I like to grab the tube by the tube itself. Do not ever grab the plate cap and pull the tube out. 6JS6C USA's, and by looking at it, the remnants left, that is a Sylvania. Just dirty on the outside. The gathers look good. There's no brown or discoloration in them. I see no burnt spots on the inner plate. I do see the mica is folded down, but that's probably from age. Let's see if I can get this other one out the same way. Now you got to remember, also doing it like this, you will wipe the writing off the side of some of these old tubes, not as it's etched on. This is a 6JS6 made in the USA, and that's a realistic lifetime tube. Now you can see the gathers do have a little bit of brown around the outside of them. We'll have to put these on the tester and look at them and see just what's going on. But a lot of times when these start turning brown, it's possible that the tube could be a little gassy. Now I can get a better look at that RF choke, and I don't see no problems with them. If you notice how close this RF choke is to the tube itself, if a tube starts overheating, it can cook that RF choke. Doesn't seem to be an issue in this one. Alright, I'm going to stick the tubes back in here and put the shield back on, because the best place to keep those tubes until we go to clean out and replace stuff is right inside this compartment. Now on the 101, this side panel of the PA cage does come off and gets out of your way. So you can see the two main filter caps here that'll need to be replaced. These are 100 at 500 volts, and I usually go back with these CDE style capacitors. They are much smaller. They're a little bit bigger around, but you know, they'll drop right in there. And I have the clamps for them also, so that's what we'll replace them with. And it gives a little more room in this area. So as you can see, we do have some corrosion in here, so we'll have to clean this chassis and get all that corrosion off. And probably have to put a little bit of naval jelly over here, because there's some rust there, and I saw another spot somewhere that has some rust in it. Or maybe that, no, there it is right here. Little rust spot right up here. I'm gonna have to get all that cleaned off. But that includes just about everything on the top of the radio. So we'll turn around and look at the bottom of it. So guys, when you go to recap these radios, don't forget there's a few here under the bottom. Also down here where the power supply transformer is, there's a capacitor here. Also behind the mic jack, there's one there. And there's another little small one here on this little transformer. A little small one right here, so don't forget about those. There's a big mylar capacitor back here off of this jack. Make sure you check it, see if it's split, and replace it. I'm gonna just go ahead and replace it anyway. But rest of the boards that's in this radio are mounted. They don't pull out. One of them being the rectifier board. Now there's a lot of times that you'll need to go in here and replace these diodes, and this supplies the bias supply of a 10 volt supply in here. So if you have any issues with those supplies, make sure you check these diodes. This resistor, very seldom have any problems with this resistor here. Now there's a couple other resistors in here that does have a problem. Now the big 5 watt resistor here that sometimes burn out, and I have seen it. If you notice, this has got a like a cloth covering on it. I have seen this stuff completely burn off from this resistor here going bad. So I get emails all the time questioning where C131 and C13 is. Now those two capacitors cause a lot of trouble in the Yaesu FT101 series. To get to those two components, we're going to remove this trimmer board by taking out these two screws. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you, don't even waste your time checking those capacitors. Just go ahead and replace them with a good silver dip capacitor. You can go online and you can find those. You're not going to find the original capacitors because they don't make them anymore, but there's a lot of substitutes. Alright, so I got this trimmer board pulled up and out of the way, and if you look right up here, get some more light on that. Tucked up right next to the chassis is C13, and that is a domino mica style capacitor, and it has a clear tube around it. Now yours may be different. Yours might not have the clear tube around them, but most of them do. And this capacitor, if it goes out, you have no output at all, because there's no drive from the driver. So it'll cause all kinds of issues. Can burn out your bias resistors and just, you know, take your tubes out. So always replace these. If you have that original domino capacitor in here, get it out and put in a replacement. So, you know, like I say, C13 is the coupling capacitor from the driver stage to the finals, and what I replace it with is the 82 picofarad silver dip at 1000 volts. And if you put that in, you'll probably never have another problem with it. This capacitor right here is C131, and it goes out from time to time also. So you know, it's best to go ahead and replace that one. Now if you look down here, you'll see a couple of big red resistors. Make sure you check these, because I have seen these go out quite a bit. And the reason is, you know, you got your driver here and you got your final over here. This little area gets a lot of heat in here, and these two resistors put off a lot of heat. So, you know, being encased in this little area, they can cook. So go ahead and make sure you check out these resistors here and replace as necessary. If they check good, there's no need of replacing them. Now tucked up over here by the band switch, right down in here is another electrolytic that will need to be replaced also. Always inspect these components up in the beneath the PA compartment by the tube sockets. You can see there's a mylar capacitor I just pulled up from down here under the bottom, and sure enough it's got a crack right across the top of it. The reason these mylars do that is that they absorb moisture, and once they absorb moisture they'll crack. So that one's definitely going to have to be replaced also. But check out all the resistors that's under here. Check the values against the schematics, and make sure they're all within tolerance. The reason why I really concentrate on these is that, again, there's a lot of heat generated in this area and these components can fail. Now the VFO in this unit is a little stiff. It's not bad, but it's not as free turning as I would like it to be. And there is some backlash on it. Let me see if I can show you this. Now this is one of the issues I was talking about with the Kenwood TS520, about that wobble sounding audio when you're trying to tune someone in, and it's actually the grease in these things are getting old, and it causes surface tension on the gears and stuff in here. Now if I turn this VFO, if you look real close, when I pull my finger away, you'll actually see this VFO knob go back the other way. You see that? You see it rotate back just a little bit, and that's from that old grease that's in there. And it's so thick and gooey that when you turn it, that grease is stretching around the gears and stuff, and it's got enough surface tension that it'll pull the VFO back around. Doesn't do it that bad this way. Oh, did it then? Yeah, you can see it coming back. And that's why we always have to pull the VFOs out. It's not actually the VFO itself, it is the in the gearing. But down in here you got what's called a Jackson ball drive, and that causes this issue most of the time. You need to take that assembly apart, which we'll be doing this one here in the future, and clean that all that old grease out, and re-lubricate it to keep it from doing that. And most of the time, just by cleaning that ball drive will take care of that problem. I went ahead and remove the VFO knob. We'll take these two little small screws out here. Pull this washer off. That's a fiber washer on this plate. And here you can see that Jackson bar drive. Yeah, and I can just feel the old grease that's even on the drive, boy. It's ran out over the years. Alright, so what I want to do now is just verify my boards to see if this radio this period of radio has the correct boards in it. And you can see right here, Yaesu serial number 15,000 and down, and then this is the mid serial number 1501, and then serial number 25001. So let's look at our serial numbers, see where it's at. So here on the back of the radio we see our serial number, and the serial number is 200533. So this was one of the later FT101E radios that come out. So it should have just about all the modifications up through that serial number that was ever done. Alright, so again, our serial number is 20.5. So our serial number is 20533. So we will use, this is the late version. So our RF board, we look on the back of it, you will see PB 1181B, and come over here to RF board and it says PB 1181B. So that is an original board. Our noise blanker board, a little hard to see, is a PB 1582. We go in a blanker here, it says PB 1582. So that is the correct period board. A low frequency board is a PB 1183C. And it's on the low frequency for that model PB 1183C. Okay, if we look at our regulator board, it is the PB 1547. Look on the regulator, PB 1547A. And as I look through the list, I see no other 1547s listed. They just don't have the A designator on this board. So that's most likely original. Our high frequency board, PB 1180. We look on the high frequency, PB 1180B. Now, in the early FT101B, it was the PB 1180. So this board is not original. Okay, our modulator board is a PB 1184A. We look under modulation, PB 1184A. So that looks like the original board. And the last board, which is our audio board. Let's go to the back. It's the PB 1315A. We look on the audio, and it's the PB 1315B. So this one has the $2,500 mid series of the 101E, and part of what it was, they had some of these left over and they just put them in. Now you know that it's possible that this was installed from the factory, just because it's not a B, which they used the B from FT101B late through the rest of the series. So you know, it's hard to say. It may be original, it may have been replaced, but rest of our boards are checking out that they are original. So I would say that the high frequency unit was probably installed at the factory. Anyway guys, as we go further in, I'll be showing you all my little tricks and stuff that I do to get these radios back up and going. As you'll find out, it'll be very few of them, because I like to keep originality in these. I do not like to do much modifying. There's some modifications that we are going to do to this radio when we get it back together. And one thing I will be doing is putting a AM filter in it and try this thing on some AM and see how well it performs. Now again, we will be going through the alignment on this. I'm thinking of doing some stuff over on Patreon that you normally wouldn't see on these radios, but I want to do a lot of it here on YouTube also. You know guys, my Patreon supporters help the channel, and they you know, they help me to be able to do this stuff. So you know, I appreciate that support. I appreciate all my viewers also. If you noticed, if you go into the service manual, there are some adjustment points in this radio that is not on the service manual, and we'll be covering them also to get this thing the way it's supposed to be. But there will be some tips and tricks up on Patreon on this Yaesu series. Anyway guys, I know this video is not that exciting, but this is real radio working, and this is something that we have to do to every radio is tear into it, check it out, cross-reference the boards through the manual, see what's been done to it, see if there's been any modifications done, look it over, see what's got to be replaced, what doesn't have to be replaced, you know, to get these old things back up and running the way that they're supposed to be. I know it's a little boring doing all that, but hey, this is what we have to do to get these radios back like they're supposed to be. Okay, so there is something in this radio that I didn't see until now, and that's the 12 YB7 tube. You can see it say 12 YB7. What is that? That says Tram. That's a Tram branded 12 YB7, and that was from the Tram radios used for CB and the D201, D21A. They used branded tubes in their radio, so I don't know, nothing wrong with that. I mean, the tube's a tube, it's just branded, you know. But that's kind of some of the investigations that you have to do and see just what's been done to a radio, you know, to help get that radio back in its normal operating mode. So guys, the radio is really not in that bad a shape. I'm hoping I can keep the plastic on the front of it. Down here around the mic jack, you can see it stretched out. There's some dirt behind it. So the plastic's going to have to be removed, and hoping that we can save it and clean it and put it back on when we go to take this front faceplate apart. Because it's going to have to come back apart, because it's got to be cleaned. All the controls have to be cleaned, all these switches. Again, you know, behind the plastic there's dirt gotten in around the microphone connector, and you can actually see the dirt behind it. So maybe we can save that. I kind of hope we will. I noticed that a lot of times I've seen the LED where they shine through, the plastic has turned the plastic dark. This one is not. It's in fairly good looking condition. But anyway, my next goal now is go ahead and get parts ordered. Get this capacitors ordered. some resistors that we're probably going to have to change out. I do not have none of those big 5-watt resistors in stock, and I like to try to keep them in stock, because you never know when you got to have one for these. But guys, you know, like I said, I know this ain't the greatest video. It's kind of boring sitting there looking to a bunch of talk about this and that, but again, this is what we go through when we get a radio like this on the bench. Once we get everything clean, start replacing components, start going in and start testing stuff, it'll get a little bit more interesting. Again, it's going to be kind of drawn out over some time, but we'll get it, and when we get finished, we should have a good working FT101E, just like it came from the factory. Well, I hope, main thing is I hope you learned something, and that's the goal of doing these videos, is to help guys that want to know. Guys, I get tons of email asking what most of us think is just basic knowledge. But you got to remember, there's a lot of guys out there wanting to learn, and these little tips and tricks that will help them get on their way to getting their radio back up and running. Anyway, leave your comments down below. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Hit that like button, because it does help. It helps the channel. Again, we're up over 20,000. I'd like to see 25,000 here in the near future, and we see can't we do something about some giveaways then. Anyway guys, we'll see you in the next video, and have a good day. Bye now.